I used to mistake motion for progress. Every notification, every podcast, every task felt like growth. But honestly, I was drowning in information and starving for clarity. We live in a world that rewards noise, but clarity doesn't come from consuming more. It comes from creating space to hear your own thoughts. So ask yourself, are you thinking clearly or just thinking constantly? Let's go ahead and find out. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the Success Spectrum Podcast. I'm your host, Kadeem McLean. Today, I want to talk to you about how overconsumption and comparison are quietly draining your focus, taking away your creativity as an entrepreneur, and draining your confidence. We'll talk about how to unplug mentally, reclaim your inner voice, and make decisions from peace instead of from pressure. And the first point to all of this is information overload is killing your intuition. Most entrepreneurs don't have a strategy problem. They have a signal problem. You may have heard it before. Steve Jobs, he said it, noise versus signal. And the real focus, the real sweet spot, I would say, is the more you can focus on signal versus noise, the better you will be as a person, the more productive you'll be. And of course, the more productive you'll be in business and the more progress you will make. Because if you can focus, let's say 80% on signal versus noise, then of course you're going to elevate because you're focusing on the things that matter. So if we can eliminate and trim off the fat, let's call it, get rid of the noise or minimize the noise and focus on the signal. We know how productive Steve Jobs was. I heard he was an animal, essentially, in terms of productivity. So if we can focus more on the signal versus the noise, then that will help us to elevate and get to where we want to get to and stop focusing again on this information, this noise, which will help us to avoid the information overload. Because constant input keeps us reacting instead of reflecting. And I believe reflection is where a lot of growth happens. If we're just constantly reacting to things happening, reacting to the noise, what progress, what production are we really getting? We're minimizing our intuition because we can no longer giving space. We are no longer giving space for our thoughts to come in, our intuition to kick in, and to go along with our instinct. We are now just reacting to whatever is happening in the world. And that is not a great place to be. When you're constantly consuming, you forget how to create. Because again, you're snuffing out that intuition because you're so focused on the noise versus that signal. With all the noise we have in the world, another thing we got to pay attention to here is the comparison, right? Instagram, Facebook, all these other social media platforms, we see people's highlight reel. They are showing us the best of their lives. There's a lot of things that happen behind the scenes that we don't see because we're only seeing the good things that they want to post. And us watching that constantly, we will get stuck in thinking that their lives are so perfect. If only I had their life. Why don't I have their life? How come their life is so great? Look at mine, it's terrible. I've got these things happening. Their life is just like your life because we all got issues. We all got problems. The issue is that you're looking at their highlight reel. When you watch a sport game, you watch basketball, you watch baseball. It hurts to say baseball because Jays just lost and they made it to the World Series. But anyhow, when you look at any sport, they have a highlight reel. But in that highlight reel, they're not showing the missed hits. They're highlighting the good things. And that's what people do with their social media. They put the good things on their social media. They don't put the bad most of the time, right? So again, we look at that and we start to compare. And that's where we start to minimize the things that we have or where we are in life, thinking we're so below the bar and everybody else is above the bar because we're looking at the good things in their life and not everything else that's behind the scenes. And that ultimately will lower our confidence, thinking that we're not doing enough, thinking that we're not where we should be. But in reality, none of us are technically where we should be because we're all aiming to do something better or become a better version of ourselves. Here's how I'll put it. You're not actually behind. You're just overwhelmed by other people's timelines. Again, you're looking at these highlight reels. So of course, you're going to feel like they're so far ahead, but really they're probably not. And ultimately, this takes away from your clarity because clarity dies when you measure your path by someone else's pace. If you look at somebody else, who knows how long it took them to get there? They've been working 10 years behind the scenes, but now they're just posting that they are a lawyer or a doctor or whatever the case is. You don't know the struggles that they've been through. You're only looking at the front cover of the book. You got to open that book to go through chapters 1 through 5 before you see or understand how they got to chapter 7. Something that can help with this is to mute what confuses you and takes away again from that intuition and amplify what calls you. That intuition is essentially calling you. It's telling you where to go, how to do things, and some thoughts that you can, of course, it'll help you to create whatever you're aiming to create, the life you're aiming to create. I'd like to help you to think on this. I'm not saying to reframe your mind completely, but think on this. Stillness is the new productivity. And the reason why is because growth happens, again, in reflection, not reaction. If we're constantly reacting to things, we're not giving ourselves time to sit down and think about what has been happening, how we got to where we are. If we're really making productivity, if we're really making progress, as opposed to just doing busy work and staying stuck where we are, getting stuck in those tasks like I mentioned before. I used to think if I hit a task list and I get my things done for the day, I'm like, whew, that was a good day. But was it really? Did I make any progress? Did I help anybody? Did I coach anybody out of a situation they were struggling with, or out of a mentality that was not serving them? Did I help anybody build anything in their business or in their life? If I didn't, it was not a great day. It was a day where I completed some tasks. I was busy throughout the day. I wasn't productive. And yes, tasks need to be completed, but again, 80% versus 20%. 80% on that signal, 20% on that noise. And I know some of you might be saying, oh, well, how is being still progress or productivity? Of course, you want to move. But the point is, when you are constantly doing things and not moving strategically, you're not really moving. You're kind of moving in circles. You're just completing tasks. And I'll say it this way, silence is not inactivity, it's incubation. You're letting thoughts cook in the oven. You're letting thoughts come to fruition from your own intuition, as opposed to what the outside world has been telling you to do, or the noise from the outside world. To give you another point of emphasis on this, most visionary ideas are born in boredom, not busyness. When we're constantly busy, again, we're not giving ourselves and our minds the time to think on things, think through things, and think of things. As a subscriber to this podcast or a listener to this podcast, I want to give you $30. How am I going to do that? Enter Rakuten. Rakuten is a platform where you can find deals of the week. And on here, it doesn't matter if you're looking for clothes, doesn't matter if you're looking for electronics, services, food, you can get cash back. $30 cash back, rather 30%, 20%, 4%. You can get Dyson Yeti. I know a lot of us need to file our taxes. Those of us who are late, you can use Intuit TurboTax to file your taxes. Ancestry. There are deals upon deals on here. And here's how it's going to work. I refer you. You click the link in the description. You spend $30 on this platform, guess what? We both get $30 back. Sounds like a win-win deal, doesn't it? Go ahead and click that link in the description and get yourself your $30. So to help with that, I encourage you to create a clarity window. And what that is you're scheduling time in your calendar for no screens, no noise, no outside input. Just you, your thoughts, and your own intuition, if you will, which will help you to think of different. I've been doing this thing for 10 years and I see it's not really producing for me. You're getting me where I want to go, but I only have a chance to think about that thing that I've been doing for 10 years if I actually sit down in stillness and think on it, reflect on it. Because if I'm constantly doing things busy, my hands are working, my mind is working, I don't give myself the opportunity to sit down and think if the last decade of my life doing this thing was really productive or helpful for me. But so again, schedule that in, that clarity window. There's a study from the University of California, and the study said it takes 23 minutes and 15 seconds to refocus, right? After a distraction kicks in, whether your notification, your phone goes off, you get a phone call, whatever it is that you're doing, somebody knocks on the door, it takes 23 minutes and 15 seconds to refocus on what you were originally working on when you sit back down to work on it. That's a lot of time. So if we have all these notifications, we have all these issues coming up or this noise coming in when we're attempting to work on something and focus on something, it's gonna take a lot longer to get something done. And that work won't be as efficient or as good as we want it to be because we've been distracted constantly. Again, in that clarity window, put your phone on silent. Put your phone on do not disturb or focus mode or whatever mode you have. Turn it upside down. Put it away from you. Leave it in another room. Don't even bring it with you into your office or where you're working. Leave it somewhere else because that is a huge distraction. If you're on your computer, turn off the notifications for your email. Whatever it might be that'll help you to isolate and allow again that intuition, those thoughts to come in so that you can reflect, so you can see if what you've been doing is helping you get to where you want to go, or you can be creative in thinking of another way to get there or a way to get there faster potentially. So based on that study, Again, 23 minutes and 15 seconds to refocus. Constant noise literally fragments your creativity and your momentum. By protecting your internal moments of silence, you boost clarity, confidence, and problem-solving ability because your brain finally has space to connect ideas. You will be so much more productive. You'll have so much more clarity, and therefore a level of confidence knowing where you're going and now having an idea of how to get there. If we just minimize these distractions, minimize the noise, and give our brains the power and space to connect these different ideas. Ask yourself, what do I really want? And then sit with the answer. Isolate yourself. Wherever you need to go, I know some of you might have kids and so on and so forth. Great. Do what you got to do. Of course, tend to their needs, but isolate yourself in one way or another to figure out the answer and to sit with the answer. What do you actually want? I had to sit with myself recently and ask myself, what do I really want? And mind you, I came back on the same answer. I knew personally, I know what I want and I know what I'm going after and what I'm going to get. However, I had to think on some other things that I've been doing and ask myself, am I doing this because of outside influence? Meaning, am I worried about the opinions of others if I continue or stop doing something? Am I worried about how it will look? Am I worried about how one business will affect the other if I continue or stop or change or whatever the case is? So I had to really think on these things, but I had to give myself space and time to sit down, reflect, and think on it. So I'm encouraging you to do the same and then sit with the answer. Don't just say, okay, that's the answer and I'm good. No, sit with the answer and let your mind do what it does when we give it the space to do what it needs to do. Because clarity does not shout, it whispers. You just need to give it the space and intentional quiet in order to hear it. I've alluded to this already, but we need to detach so that we can direct our energy. Detach so we can direct it. Every yes to noise is a no to the signal, is a no to your next level, is a no to your growth, to creating that business in the way you want to create it, getting the production you want to get, and achieving whatever goal you have. Of course, this is not just business, but you have a fitness goal. You have a goal to read a certain amount of books, whatever it might be. Saying yes to the noise means you are saying no to that goal. You are saying no to that growth. You are saying no to the opportunity and to your next level. So to think about this, we all know what we need to do to read more books, to get fit, to get healthy, to create a business. A lot of us have at least a good idea. So we don't necessarily need more information. We need more interpretation, more space, more time to think on things, more action. Don't just sit there and think on it. But once you have the answers and you've understand that came from a place of silence, act on it. The whole point is not to sit still and stay quiet and not do anything. That's not the whole point of this episode. It is to take a different perspective, a different approach, to shut out the noise and doing these unnecessary tasks and just going through that task list for 100% of your day or 80% of your day and flipping the script. 80% of your day, if depending on what you're aiming for and your goals, of course. But my suggestion would be 80% of your day goes towards that signal and 20% goes towards the noise. Because if we can flip the script, then guess what? We're making progress. We're heading towards where we want to head towards, right? So you don't necessarily need more information. We need more silence to get those ideas and understand where we're headed, to get clarity, which will give us a level of confidence to know where we're headed, which will, of course, that silence again will give us that creativity to think on those things and the strategy to get there. Then we can move forward with each step more confidently, right? So protect your mental bandwidth because it's your most valuable currency. It really is as an entrepreneur, generally speaking, but as an entrepreneur, it is your most valuable currency, your mental bandwidth. If you are drained, there is nothing you can do. Again, I always give this analogy, so forgive me for anybody who doesn't really understand cars, but if you don't get a tune-up on your vehicle, you might be operating at 40%, 60%, 50%. That car, if it goes up against another car on a track that is at 100%, the exact same car, you're going to lose. And it's not again about comparison, but it's to say if you just get your tune-up, you will operate at 100% and you will be so much further down the road within the same time frame that you would have just been, let's say, a meter away from the start, right? So get yourself your tune-up, which is essentially giving yourself that time because your business needs a tune-up. Give yourself that time to think, to reflect, instead of just taking in the noise. So a quick action step for you. What's one voice, platform, or distraction that you can silence this week so you can hear your own voice again? Your peace is the most profitable frequency which you can operate from. Not pressure per se, but your peace. When it comes to your mentality and the thoughts that you have, instead of focusing on that noise, focus on that signal. Instead of just reacting, Give yourself time to reflect. What is one platform, voice, or distraction that you can silence this week so you can hear your own voice again? And not only is it important to silence the things that don't benefit you, but it's important to take in the things that do benefit you. In order to do that, I want to offer you to click the link in the description to join the Freedom Hub, where you'll get connected with like-minded entrepreneurs who are focused on mastering their mindset, alignment, and growth. Click the link in the description to join the Freedom Hub. I'll be looking forward to seeing you there. Kadeem here. Appreciate you for listening, and I'll see you in the next one.